Welcome to another episode of In Response. Yes, this is a little addendum, again, a little added value when it comes to the Instant Speed podcast. Basically, this one here is there's just this influx of cryptic messages coming in from Flesh and Blood's Twitter account. The Everfest reveal campaign doesn't really kick off for another day or so. So we are left with not really a clear image, but a lot of clues and hints that LSS has essentially left us to basically piece together and surmise what is coming around the pipe. And I know that a lot of people have basically dug into this and really busted out their own interpretations of what these are. And I thought that this would be a good time to, I guess, just at this current moment when we're recording this, it is currently 12:45 p.m. on January 22nd, Eastern Standard Time. And I've just basically plugged into the matrix and connected myself and figured, you know what, there are so many of these cryptic messages that perhaps it's worth kind of at least maybe a part one of a wrap up of what these are up to date, and we can kind of give our little analysis as to what they possibly are. There's no guest on In Response today. It's just merely myself, Matt DeMarco, a.k.a. Flake. And we're going to bust through. So if you have missed it, you can go to at FAB TCG, at FAB TCG on Twitter. They have been leaving these little breadcrumbs for us to scoop up, kind of a little bit of an, a piece of candy kind of thing to just basically put in our pockets until the reveal campaign kicks off on the 24th, I believe. I know that my reveal is coming on the 26th, and I'm excited. Ooh, yeah. But until then, let's just bust through all the others. So here, if you are listening to this on YouTube, well, hello, little wave to you. But we do have the benefit of visual technology to show you what we're talking about. But it's all just tweets, so there's not a whole lot to get through. So as we just kind of scroll through it here, we're going to get to one of the earliest ones that have been put out there. If I can find it real quick, that way you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, because these started dropping. Here we go, January 16th. There was a little bit of radio silence a little bit throughout the holiday season, and suddenly on January 16th, bam, first one. So let's talk about this one right here. The first one that pops up is this bad boy right here, and the cryptic tweet, as it were, is a card with a type that hasn't previously existed for this class. And if we're kind of digging in to see what all the hubbub is about, there's a lot of, this was the first cryptic tweet, so there's a lot of people that are just kind of, I don't want to say throwing shade, but just, having fun with it. As, for instance, Noxious says, Noxious's answer is a Ranger card of the good type, as if Ranger was kind of the butt of jokes for a little while. Lexi comes in, and with the infusion of elemental prowess, we have seen a viable, if not powerful, Ranger list. We've got Brute Aura is another option here, as one person suggests. Ninja non-attack, why not? That's a decent option as well. Attack actions for wizards. These are all very popular options. My thought process here is if we're going to get to a card type that hasn't previously existed for its class, it feels like perhaps some sort of ninja chest piece is also possible for that. I don't think there's a ninja chess piece. Most ninjas just kind of rely on Fyendel Spring Tunic. That was kind of my first thought, but a wizard attack action feels like something that could certainly be one of the options. All right, the next one up is one new keyword that appears 4 times. One new keyword that appears 4 times. What could that be? A new keyword that appears 4 times? Well, It's a new keyword, so it's hard to really decide what that possible keyword could be when we have no clues as to, any of these new drops. If we see a new keyword, we could probably decide that maybe this is the one that comes through. But keywords such as things like dominate, things like intimidate, go again, these are all keywords that are clutch. But what has the community looked at here? 4 times, is that a hit? This is really difficult. So this is, if it comes down to trying to decipher what this is, it's anyone's guess, unless you have an in or you're intimately involved with the development process for this particular set. It's hard to really decide what that is. Everyone's going to have their own assumptions, their own ideas. I know that designing cards and fan-made cards is nothing new. It is a very popular activity or exercise for players to expand on games that they love. But I don't know what this could possibly be. I'm trying to find some of the more fascinating answers that have come through. Riposte for Warriors seems fascinating. I'm not sure what that would actually entail, but it's kind of fascinating because you need to actually create the keyword and then put some sort of behavior to it, right? Some sort of impact with that keyword. Next up is we've got a way to destroy your own equipment and weapons. Your own equipment and weapons. Why are you trying to destroy your own equipment and weapons? I discussed this with Red Zone Rogue on an episode of the Instant Speed podcast that you can tap into. And what we decided, I thought that it would be a fascinating option where there's a card and perhaps the weapon itself. My thought process here is that the weapon itself is going to be kind of like an offhand additional weapon that you destroy in order to go ahead and fetch something either from the deck or from your graveyard. So it's something like banish this weapon or destroy this weapon. Imagine it's like the way I think about it is imagine, for all you Mortal Kombat fans, you have some sort of Scorpion style get over here kind of chain that you can use that can maybe, it's like at the worst, it's like pay 1 to attack for 1, which is garbage. But otherwise, what you can do is it's like destroy this weapon to get an attack action card from your graveyard and add it to your hand, or pay 1 to destroy it to add, something to that regard where the actual damage it outputs is nowhere close to the application or the utility of it from that regard. That is my thought process for this, is that it's an offhand utility weapon, be it a tutor or an enhancement to something else. That's kind of the way I see it. So a way to destroy your own equipment and weapons. But equipment is the other thing, which kind of throws me off. Because you're looking at this and you're thinking, okay, a way to destroy your own weapon, but equipment is the one. So maybe it's not built in. This kind of leads me to a path where, okay, we're going to destroy our own equipment. So that is another clue of, are you adding sort of temper tokens? Not temper, what is it? Is battle worn tokens, so to speak, where when you block with something, it takes a token on it. Things of that nature is what I'm looking at here. So another fascinating little breadcrumb. All right, next up, we've got 4 equipment cards not previously printed in their classes for these zones before. Now, this brings me back to the one we had earlier where I was thinking Ninja Chess Piece, because ninjas have they have the Breeze Rider boots. They've got the handpiece. They've got the Mask of Momentum. They just do not have a nice shirt to wear. So why not find a piece of equipment that might actually supplant the be it the Heartened Cross Straps or the Findale Spring Tunic, which are typically your 2 go-to options for ninja builds. You have the Heartened Cross Strap if you're going excessively aggressive, to get rid of those to give your Surging Strike a free pass, or you're using your tunic to just help pay for things in a longer, grindier game. But this leads me to believe that perhaps Ninja are getting a chess piece, and that's what I'm thinking. If we're looking through some of the responses that we're getting here, I've got Mechanologist Arms to give you the next attack action boost. And that's a very good one. That one's coming from Team Kitchen Table. Hometown TCG. The Ninja Chest is going to be wild. See, I'm not the only one. See, this is exactly what I'm thinking about. The Ninja Chess piece was probably one of my first predictions when it came to Everfest. That's not true. I believe that on Garbage Andy's video that came out like weeks and weeks ago, the first thing that I suspected was that Garbage Andy was like, give me your hot takes for Everfest. And what I said was there was going to be a weapon that replaced Kadachi's as the go-to ninja piece. But then the second piece I thought of was Ninja Chest Piece, which kind of sounds like a really cool band, frankly. Like, you've got Ninja Chest Piece opening for Phasmatis in Threat Display. Again, callback to Red Zone Rogue and Garbage Andy's bands. Yeah, Ninja chess piece. So I'm not the only one, which I like it. Let's see. Please give me a static +1 dice value, one-time use brute gloves. That's a very cool one as well. I really like this option as well. Just a something that doesn't necessarily block or enhance an attack from a damage perspective, but this one sort of manipulates a dice roll value, which is pretty cool. So when you roll that 5 with Scab Skins, bust out those gloves, give it a 6, and suddenly you've got 3 action points to go to town. Brute gloves, warrior helm, ninja chest, guardian boots. So ninja chest is again continuing to just sort of be the one we're talking about. Lots of brute arms. We love it. Ranger chest piece is another one. A wizard hood feels good. And guardian legs. So there's still so much out there, but I think that when you if you were to sit down and think about all the popular heroes or most of the heroes and what they're missing, ninja chest, guardian legs, wizard hat, there's so many that are lacking. And, if you're building up your major hero Voltron unit, you kind of want all the best pieces. But the question is also not only what will that piece be, but also will it supplant whatever is already occupying that slot for that hero? Like, are you going to print a ninja piece, chess piece that is better than cross straps or better than the Findale Spring Tunic? Doubtful. Who knows? All right, moving on. We've got, what do we got here? 4 equipment cards not printed. No, we did that. An attack that rewards the opponent for defending it. That's fascinating. That's actually fascinating. This could honestly be something along the lines of a very low attack that doesn't necessarily... I mean, think about it this way. I mean, if you're blocking an attack, it's because you're trying to soak up damage. But in the same vein that you're not necessarily always blocking Kodachis because they're not worth the 1 damage, is typically not worth the card that you're donating to block that damage. This might be another situation where it's just a free pass attack that comes in for, let's say, 3 with no real, like, it's a 3 go again, but if your opponent blocks it, it becomes like a 2 or something like that. Like, the way I'm thinking about it, it's a low stakes attack that is kind of in the Kodachi range of like 1 or 2, but your opponent doesn't, like, you're getting a card out of your opponent for an attack that they otherwise would not typically look to block, let's say. There's so many different fascinations that and iterations of this that go through my mind. But the way that I'm trying to justify this is that you're looking for an attack that rewards your opponent for defending it, which means that the attack itself is not a very appealing defensive target. So it's either low attack, no on hit, or something that is so silly that it doesn't matter. So you're looking at a low-cost, low-damage attack that would possibly go again that's just kind of enticing your opponent to say, look, you probably don't want to defend this because it's not coming in for much. But if you do, you'll get a little bit of a bonus. You'll get a little bit of a trade-off here. So I'm going to peel a card out of your hand that might not really do a whole lot. I mean, it's going to overblock, let's say. It's going to block a 2 for 3 damage out of a 2. There's a lot of avenues to take here, but that's kind of my thought process here with this, is that low stakes or low damage attack that basically is in trying to entice your opponent to just donate a card to something that otherwise would not necessarily be that threatening. Let's keep scrolling around. I've got one, an arrow attack unlike any other. Now, arrows and rogues and rangers and all kinds of things like that is a fascinating thing to dive into, and I thought that this might be one where there's going to be some troll answers. An arrow attack unlike any other. Well, let's talk to Isaac Jessen here. We know Isaac Jessen, who was at the US Nats and one of the best Lexi players in the world. Just set my brain on fire. Will you see right there? So Isaac's excited. But what are the possibilities here? I got a Lexi specialization in Response Gaming saying, you know what, Lexi specialization could be possible here for sure. We've got a Cody Prince saying it's a crossbow bolt. We're getting crossbows and offhand weapons quivers. See, this is where these pieces are finally gelling, because a crossbow can be a one-handed style weapon, wherein the arrows that perhaps your you're loading into them, they might have your crossbow can be something along the lines of a one-handed weapon wherein all your arrows loaded into it are -1 attack. Simple enough. And that opens up your offhand for something like, Cody Prince here is saying something like a quiver or an offhand weapon. A quiver could be something cool in the offhand where you're actually stacking. You have an extra sort of place to put an arrow that isn't an arsenal, which could be fascinating. I mean, honestly, then at what point are you saying like, well, why is New Horizon a thing if you're putting two? But a quiver, I mean, New Horizon, I think doesn't work on. Does New Horizon work on Azalea? I'm not sure. I'm not really very keen on Rangers and such. So, but that's an option. An arrow that heals your opponent on hit seems a little bit ridiculous. I don't see value in that. But an arrow that deals 6 damage, a thick arrow could be cool. An explosive arrow, put a -1 counter on different equipment for each damage dealt. Like, that's a really cool one as well. Imagine there was like a Lexi specialization or some sort of legendary arrow that when it hits, it puts -1 counters on as many things as damage is done. These are all fascinating thoughts here. Azalea specialization, well, we already have that. It's called Red in the Ledger, and more coming through. Lots of great opportunities and options here. All right, let's go to the next one. Again, keeping you all caught up on all of the cryptic messages, the breadcrumbs, if you will. A generic card that can destroy destroy cards in Arsenal. Well, this could be many things. A generic card that can destroy cards in Arsenal, we have that. We have several, I think. I believe Thump, if I'm not mistaken, is Thump one of them? No, Thump. There's a card that actually destroys your opponent's arsenal outside of Command and Conquer. Obviously, Command and Conquer is the end-all of what arsenal destruction is, but that's a good opportunity as well. So this could be many things, frankly. A generic card that can destroy cards in Arsenal could literally just mean Command and Conquer is getting reprinted. Because it doesn't say a new card. It doesn't say the first time or the second time a card or a third time a card could destroy a card in Arsenal. What it's saying is that there will be a generic card. All right, generic. Fits the bill for Command & Conquer. That can destroy cards in Arsenal. What we already know, friends, is that there are going to be reprints. And one of those reprints is the Arcanite Skullcap. So we can kind of piece together the fact that, well, number one, they're obviously not afraid to make reprints because they're already making reprints. And B, they're already making reprints of highly desirable cards. They are not going to necessarily pull all the stops and say, well, this is the nucleus of cards we're never going to reprint. You're never going to see another Enlightened Strike, another Command and Conquer. You're never going to see another Art of War. You're never going to see another Fyendel Spring Tunic, blah, 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 blah. That ain't happening. That's not happening. They've already debunked that by saying you're getting reprints and they're going to be high value. So I would put all donuts on this on a bet on this one here and say that the generic card that can destroy cards in Arsenal is just Command and Conquer coming back. Next up, we got a card that searches your deck for something specific in its name. Frankly, it's just a tutor, and this also plays back to the offhand weapon that I was talking about earlier, that there was going to be an offhand weapon, perhaps, where someone said, oh, a dagger, or you have a crossbow, or this or that. I was saying the ninja get over here scorpion style thing. That could be it. Could be a tutor that you pick up to go ahead and pick up like a combo piece or something along those lines. I think that on the episode of Instant Speed with Red Zone Rogue that we had last week, I mentioned that could be a cool opportunity. That maybe you're rocking a single Kodachi, and the offhand is that little swing around thing that attacks for 1 like a Kodachi, doesn't have go again, but you can destroy it to go ahead and fetch something. It's a thought. It's a process. But that's kind of where I'm thinking about. I'm sincerely believing that a lot more heroes are going to have offhand utility-style weapons where their primary focus is not necessarily to do damage. It's to enhance a game plan. It's to facilitate a strategy. So that's what I'm thinking about when it says a card that searches your deck for something specific in its name. And you know what that specific thing could be? Could be the word combo. Yeah, I know Katsu already has that built into his text, but we can think. All right. A card with the word thrice in it. Thrice. How often have you used that? All right. We're going to just dig into the community feedback on this one. This attack deals thrice as much damage against a Runeblade opponent. Well, there's a little bit of hatred there, given the fact that we've gone through Chain, we've gone through Briar, and who knows if Viscera is next up on the docket when it comes to Runeblade Supremacy. Still, your arrow splits and strikes thrice. Pretty cool. I'm really wondering what to me, the conundrum here is more about the English syntax in terms of being able to weasel this word in properly, not just functionally to describe the effect of the card, but to use in what scenario is the word thrice the correct term to use. I get it. It's a perfectly, I'm going to use a Simpsons term here. It's a perfectly cromulent word. So why is it not so simple to think back? But could be a ninja attack, maybe a new combo card. Could also be flavor text as well. That's a really cool one. This one's from Brewtap Cast saying this could just be flavor text. It could honestly be flavor text. I would suspect that they're not going to kind of bait us that way, that they're not going to give us a little smoke and mirrors when it comes to it. And I figured that a lot of the keywords and the text that they're kind of teasing towards is more so game text. It's functional, actual, real utility on the text. It's not just the flavor text, though the flavor text is always fun. But I don't think that LSS is just kind of do a little bait and switch here, a little smoke and mirrors switcheroo on us. I don't think that's the case. What else we got here? A generic arrow that destroys the opponent's arsenal thrice. Nah, I don't think so. Don't think so. And then people just keep putting Plunder Run as their answer every single time. All right, next up, what do we got? I've got. Oh, here's one. The most powerful attack in the game yet. That immediately leads you to believe that there's going to be some sort of crazy 12 or 13 base attack that is just obscene. Absolutely obscene. However, is powerful meaning the attack value is the highest it has been? Or is it more so something where the effect is just decided? I mean, that's a lot more subjectivity involved in that analysis. I mean, if you're thinking about it from that regard, you're saying, all right, the most powerful attack in the game, you immediately go to the fact that, okay, like Crippling Crush is 11, so is there like a more Crippling Crush, a Cripplinger Crush, a Crippler Crush? You know, there's all kinds of sort of avenues you could take here if your thought process is that powerful equals attack value. But powerful could be something along the lines of maybe it's just like a 7 attack go again that draws you a card. That's powerful. That's insanely powerful. Might be expensive, but the power level on that card feels pretty high up. So if you're going from a more objective analysis of the card, an objective evaluation, then attack value is what you're looking at, meaning that you could probably expect something to come in that's swinging for like 12 or 13. However, I think that's the highest attack. I could be wrong. But you're looking at like one massive swing, where in which case, is it Brute? Is it Guardian? Who swings hard? Who swings crazy big? Is it Ninja? Maybe there's this massive crazy finisher that Ninja has. This enormous like 5-step process that if you get all your pieces right, it's like this humongous kill. It's completely possible. It's what I'm thinking. That is a decent option here. Maybe there's like Smash with 2 big trees. Maybe Smash with bigger tree is the thing. All right, we got a unique pitch, cost, power, defense combination for a generic attack. So you can kind of build this in your mind. If you're going through all the generic attacks and saying, all right, I need a card that has an attack, defense, pitch, and cost that has never been, those 4 digits have never coexisted in a generic attack. You can basically build it. If you're doing a gigantic spreadsheet, there's probably going to be, look, I don't know, but there's probably going to be within that strong bell curve of like 1 through 7 attack value, I'm sure a lot of them have already been done. But this could can honestly just be, if you sort of wheel back to the previous one, the most powerful attack in the game yet, like the next one, which is a unique pitch, cost, power, defense combination. If it's the most powerful attack in the game and it's generic, then that means that that satisfies all the criteria for this one right here, a unique pitch, cost, power, defense combination. Well, if the power is the first time that power's been done, it satisfies everything else for the generic attack. So you could possibly think that if you go back a little bit here and say that the most powerful attack in the game yet, if that clue leaks in and links to the clue above, then that means that this most powerful attack in the game could possibly be a generic. Again, I'm no Sherlock, but that's what I'm thinking. All right, next up, an ability to prevent yourself from losing the game. I laughed at this because I retweeted this one and I said, isn't that just skill? Isn't that just being good at the game? Isn't that just experience and wisdom? Practically applied to your game plan here. I mean, an ability to prevent yourself from losing the game, I always thought was practice. I always thought it was just good deck building and good matchups and drawing well. I could be wrong. There could honestly be a card much in the vein that other card games have, where it's like, what is it, like Platinum Angel, where it's like your opponent cannot win and you cannot lose, like something along those lines. It would be very silly that if there was some sort of armor piece, let's say, that they had that prevented them from losing the game, or there was some item, some potion, some sort of weird thing on the board, or a token. Maybe it's a token, because you got to think about it this way. If there's something on the board that prevents you from losing the game, it needs to be interactable. It needs to have a window for every single other hero to be able to address it and answer it. Because if it's an item and you just leave it there and your opponent cannot do anything with the item, then the game's over. If it's a piece of equipment, then the game's over. There's nothing, if you can't touch it. If you're not properly teched to beat it, then it just sits there. But what if it was a token that you generate? What if that token that you generate, much, like rune blades create tokens, it's like this attack value thing. What if that, as long as that thing exists, it can... it'll prevent you from losing, like an aura that you could just go ahead and attack it. But an aura can just, if it has, Spectra or whatever, the one where you attack it and as soon as it's targeted, it dissipates. It might be, that seems too easy because you'll just target it and attack it. But what if it was a token, a creature, so to speak, that lives on the board that you have to go ahead and slay? Otherwise, who knows? That's my assessment. It's probably like a token, or it might just be a temporary instant aura wherein you play it, or an instant speed card where you play it and it basically creates the shroud, this like fog of war effect that you will no longer take damage that would otherwise be lethal. Like you'll take damage up until 1 and then it stops you at 1. So you cannot possibly lose the game. But again, like the wording of it, you cannot lose the game. Game designers are very specific, I find, when it comes to effects of this nature where the wording is so clutch. That's why Platinum Angel says your opponent cannot win and you cannot lose. It doesn't just say you cannot lose, because that does not necessarily remove the element of your opponent winning. So fascinating. All right, next up, I've got a card that halves an attack's power. A card that halves an attack's power could be an instant. It could be a defense reaction. It could be anything, frankly, that has a defense value where, let's say you defend with it. Let's say you defend with it and it says that if this is defending an attack of 7 or greater, your opponent's half your opponent's attack rounded up, let's say. So the 7 becomes a 4. An 8 becomes a 4, a 9 becomes a 5, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I think that could be something fascinating. It also could be something along the lines of, if you attack and hit, your opponent's next attack is cut in half. Like it could be an on-hit effect. That could be an option as well. It could also be what if it's an offhand or an armor piece that when it's used to defend, it halves your opponent's attack value. Thoughts? I think it's something a little bit more basic. I think it's going to be an on-hit effect that basically cuts your opponent's thing in half. We've seen these kinds of effects before where on-hit attacks have basically neutered the clapback, but in this case, this one seems a little bit more powerful. All right, moving on. January 20th with Flesh and Blood tweeted out 2 cards that destroy auras. Ooh, 2 cards that destroy auras. Fascinating. I suspect it's going to be generic. I feel like at least one is going to be generic, perhaps. I feel like destroying an aura is something that people might need to have access to, because aura effects are soul shackles are auras, I think. There's a lot of auras out there, but I think that this could be, if one of these, I suspect one is probably going to be a hero-specific card. However, I do believe that if one of these comes out, it will be generic, and it might be one of those really, really appealing sideboard cards, depending on how auras perform when Everfest comes out. Digging into some of these, lots of people just trying to weasel and just kind of shoehorn wizardry into all of these, which is great. But yeah, lots of people saying, all right, well, Prism seems bad. Prism's going to get clapped on, but hey, it happens. They're not the only ones that have auras. Guardians have auras. Runeblades have auras. Zen State's an aura, though not the most likely. All right, a new finisher of an existing ninja combo line. This one makes me happy as kind of a ninja main for a while. So it's a finisher for an existing ninja combo line. If you look at some of the ninja combo lines, you have stuff like leg tap into rising knee thrust into blackout kick / hurricane technique. Those are 2 ends of the line for one particular fairly reasonable combo line that's pretty popular in most decks, in most ninja decks. So what would it be? Is it another end to the Magenshi Express? Is Lord of Wind Station like the final stop now, or do you have options? Maybe there's a second way to go. It's surging into Whelming, into Magenshi, into Decision, into Fork in the Road. You never know. But I feel like this one might actually be looking to revitalize like head jab, maybe that head jab, open the center kind of stuff. I think that maybe that's where it's going. That might be where it's trying to revitalize. It's maybe looking to peel away the auto include of leg tap rising and surging whelming, which typically populate the majority of ninja decks, because a lot of those other cards that go in are like Scar for a Scar, and other big attacks that are not necessarily ninja focused, but do get the job done for aggro ninja. Revitalizing or adding a little extra spices to one of those recipes can really feel good. I love ninja. I'm a ninja main through and through, though I did play a lot of Briar when Briar saw its resurgence, saw its emergence, but this is definitely really, really juicy to dig into. Got a couple left. I've got a defense reaction that costs 1 and could defend for 10. All right. Here's how this goes. A defense reaction that costs 1 and could defend for 10. My immediate thought process for this one is the fact that there are cards already that are defense reactions that can be pumped up. You can play them, and if you pay more, they can become more powerful. To the level or the degree, of 10 doesn't seem right. But if we're doing a little bit of creative accounting here, we can basically decide that a red 0-cost defense reaction should defend for 4. Flick Flack, Fate Foreseen, all of them, frankly. I am not going to list them all, Sink Below, etc. They're usually 0s that block for 4 and have a certain effect. A 1-cost, you could probably think that a 1-cost will defend for 5. And when it says could also defend for 10, I would think that they also have a added bonus of instant pay 4 to increase the defense by 5, let's say, which feels tough, or pay 3, let's say, but you're already paying 1. So you have to kind of put together what is the standard cost for 10 defense. Well, 10 defense is the highest a defense reaction would be able to offer, I feel, as an unmovable out of the arsenal is worth 8, You still got to pay 3. So if 3 is yielding 8, you can probably suspect that 4 would yield 10, maybe more. 5 would yield 10. So if you're paying 1 for the base of 5, then another 3 would bring the total cost to 4, which then brings the total defense to 10. But then again, instant speed, you got to pay for that ability. There's so much going on here. But my initial thought process here is that it's a defense reaction that is 1 block 5, pump it to 10. I don't think it's as complex, perhaps, as something where, like, oh, if your opponent has an attack and an attack reaction, this blocks for 10. Like, it could be cool, but I don't think that's what it is. Okay, an offhand weapon that isn't a shield. This is playing into all the guesses that we've had, wherein we've had a offhand weapon being not the rotten old buckler. So what is it? A quiver, a dagger, a get over here scorpion style hook thing. I don't know what they're called. I need to get educated on this. But that is definitely a possibility here as well, given the fact that a lot of these clues prior to this have alluded to the fact that some hero is going to have some fancy new toy. And a lot of these clues are certainly bleeding into one another. And I am of the belief that it is going to be a ranger style weapon. I think that ranger is going to get help to the degree of maybe Azalea is going to find a offhand weapon and a crossbow, or something that will allow you to tutor out cards or retrieve cards, something that will again, it's utility. Shield is a fantastic thing to have in the offhand to block. It's not Rampart of the Ram's Head, but a rotten old buckler still eats one that might have been lethal. So an offhand weapon that isn't a shield, we would need to see. I suspect that this is probably going to be one of those mythic cards. Majestic cards. I think that this is going to be one of those cards that is really going to take a hero to a new direction, possibly Ranger, and it's going to bring that hero paired up with another fantastic, silly, or cool weapon. Or it could just be the fact that it's a Kodachi of 1. A 1 Kodachi with a ninja offhand weapon that could be pretty damn cool. Those are my thoughts on that. Are there any left? I think I've got one more here. It is a card that can be used to defend your allies. Allies, hey now. This just kind of goes ahead and really brings a little bit more love to other formats of like Ultimate Pit Fight or some sort of 2 versus 2 or something to that regard. So an Ultimate Pit Fight card or a card that allows you to defend somebody other than yourself. This just alludes to the fact that there's going to be support for game modes outside of standard blitz or classic constructed. That 1v1 mentality now is broadening. I have seen people suggest that perhaps there's a PvE, that is an option, that there's just one immense hero that is being played that you can go 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and etc. That you have this mission to beat this particular hero. So defending your allies can be pretty damn cool. I like it. I'm just curious to know. It's not the card so much that fascinates me in terms of what the game mode that this will support and how that progresses. But that's basically it. I mean, as it stands now, we've basically jumped into all the cryptic messages that Flesh and Blood has produced as of right now. It's 1:22 p.m., January 22nd, Eastern Standard Time, and that's all we've got. So thank you so much, friends. Again, so many spoilers. You can catch a spoiler on this channel. Where is my spoiler? Here it is. Here's my spoiler card, which we will open on January 26th. So stay tuned for that, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the Instant Speed Podcast. Give us a nice 5-star review, follow the channels and all that jazz, and don't forget to be kind to one another, and don't forget, you're not losing if you're learning, so keep playing the games. We'll catch you next time on the Instant Speed Podcast.